Thanks, Harry. Myself, Amandeep, and I'm so glad to be here along with two very special CTOs. And introductions have been already given. So we are all remotely placed right now in our convenience. So I think I'll start my questions. Starting where are you guys? So Neeli, I will go with you first. So would you tell like where are you based and what has been your key learning and work this year?
Oh, where am I based? That is a tough question. It's like someone asking me, where are you from? And I have no clue. I'm just a human on this planet now at this moment with COVID, surviving our game. So, just to answer your question, I am based partly in California, in Bay Area, having one of the companies, the startup, but I'm representing my Dutch company, SmartAvatar, today. And I am at this moment sitting in my mom's study. So you can see this beautiful books in the background. So, what are my key learnings? Ooh, 7 months. This was a tough period as a startup. We launched last September and hoping to have the customer ready, everything there. We suddenly had to stop everything. So that was the key learning. How do you cope when such situation happens, and how do you keep on working with your customer and your team members to make sure that the product is out on time, and uh, the team is happy, the customer is happy, I'm happy, everyone is happy. So that was one of the, as we keep on talking, you'll hear more about my key learnings. uh, but on the innovation part, we actually did move on to a different direction, being a autonomous car and software developer startup. We moved and brought the product towards healthcare. How do we take care of the elderlies at home with the same product? So that was one of the major innovation. It was nothing, rocket science about it. We just took the same thing and reinvented a bit. So that was something, and also bringing in the cybersecurity in that, because we were online so much continuously.
That,
So
that that's something incredible. I won't call it like a you pivot, but you kind of brought in more aspects as you got present to the uh, circumstances around you.
yes.
And maybe I will ask the same to Martin. Like Martin, like just to kickstart the conversation, where are you based and what are your challenges? What has been your key learning this year?
Yeah, I'm based in Berlin right now. The team is spread between Berlin and Zurich. So beginning of the year, I spent a lot of time in Zurich, but since the lockdown, since March, I've been exclusively in Berlin. And yeah, the key learning I think for me this year was, I think it hit us in Zurich and Berlin roughly around like beginning of March, right, where everything locked down and it became kind of like a more severe crisis, and um, we had to react to everything that was happening around us. So key learning for me was definitely how important it is to find focus as a startup, particularly in a crisis, to know what is important, what you need to do, and then provide that clarity back to the company as a leadership, right? And with focus, I mean, like knowing what is it that we do, but maybe even more important, also what is it that we don't do. Um, and so as part of, I think, that journey of finding doubling down on clarity and focus, I think we innovated on a few areas, making sure to be more data driven about the innovation
Mhm.
pieces that we try to do, right? To really validate our ideas early on, to take out risk um, from long development cycles and so on. And um, I think that was a big innovation piece for us this year, where we try to manage at the same time, also doubling down more on standard building blocks, using cloud services that we can just provision rather than like building them ourselves, just so that we stay lean and iterate on them quickly.
Yeah, that's pretty interesting. But Martin, knowing you personally also before, you
Mm-hmm.
have been working globally. You were in New York, you were in Copenhagen, now you're in Berlin and a few more places. And Neeli, you already introduced yourself like you have been all over the place physically as well before Corona, and now you are also. So maybe any of you can actually. So has remote working for you guys specifically, the already working with global and spatial distributed teams, has remote working been different sort of a challenge this time? Excessive reliance on, I'm not saying Slack or Microsoft Teams, but overall in kind of getting work done. Any perspectives would you like to share? How remote working this time has been a challenge?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Neeli, do we want to go first or should I?
No, go first.
Okay. It definitely has changed. I think we were already thinking about our remote culture and how to go there. I think for where I work right now, we're in like a typical office setup. We have multiple offices, but it was, the standard is that people come into the office, and the exception is that you work from home. And since March, the entire team is working remotely, and we send everybody home. And since then, we had to make it work. Was surprisingly easy, I think, for us in the engineering org and also the product engineering org. I think most of how we used to work, we could just move those things to remote locations and communicate with Slack and Jira, and all of our documentation was already online in the cloud. So I think for us it was not a big challenge. But it definitely accelerated our move to remote, and also how I think today about remote culture. Today, I would definitely say that I want to embrace it rather than like moving back to like how it was before. So we just we went now through the trouble of like making it work, finding new processes and so on, and it gives me a lot of newfound opportunity as well. I can now tap into a much larger talent pool. I can now hire people and onboard them remotely. What was a thing that people thought was not really like a viable thing to do before, and so we proved that to be wrong. And I actually find myself now with more options, and there are still challenges, I think, for us being really efficient as a remote team. But as I said, my personal vision is we want to embrace it, and we're probably gonna have more smaller offices in multiple locations rather than like one, two larger offices, and then really focus on, if we get together, focus on collaboration, right? So I think that the role there will change.
Yeah, Martin, my actually next question is already going in the hiring direction, but before that, I think Neeli would like to also add something here.
Yes, I was just thinking, how we were going towards complete globalization, this movement of humans, and a lot of them coming to Bay Area and wanting to come to Bay Area when they saw, not my Dutch location, but my US location. They wanted to. And if you look now, the big companies like Facebook, Google, all they are sending their people back to their homeland, so to speak, and saying, stay there, or choose any part of the world or any part of United States and work for us, which is very nice. So for us, it became kind of a blessing, because now we can tell them the same and say, okay, you stay where you are and we can work together. And it became much more easier.
Yeah, hold on there. Like I have the same thing coming here. Like you guys both come from growth companies, growth startups.
Yes.
And so how has hiring decisions changed for you this year? I give you a perspective from my last year hosting a TechBBQ. I emphasized a lot on this something called culture fit, which companies used to follow a lot in rejecting people, let's say this way. And some meetings on a workplace, we call it like have this chat with this person or have a call. No, take this matter face to face when you meet. So now face to face is not an option. in Corona times, and you work with specialized, skilled set of people who are distributed. So how has been like your hiring decisions impacted this year? If you have done some hiring on, have you seen your parameters changed, or your focus areas shifted?
Martin, have you been hiring?
Yes, I've been. I think let me maybe zoom out a little bit. So beginning of this year, the mission was to grow at all costs, right? Like to double, triple the team.
Yeah.
That completely changed, right? So we came to a complete halt. Had to look at the situation, see, how is this going to play out, and we're still in the middle of it. Created a few scenarios, more conservative ones or more optimistic ones, and then see, okay, what do we commit to, what also manage our runway, our growth, potential new investments, and then come up with a revised growth plan for us as a company. And we are still in the process of hiring, but I think obviously a more conservative pace than what we've planned originally for 2020. The hiring process itself has, of course, as you mentioned, also changed, right? As you said, you can't sit in the same room and get that like interpersonal feeling for somebody. So you have to make it work just via a Zoom call or remote. And I think at the end of the day, the field is leveled, right, for all companies right now. So we're all dealing with the same problems to make that work, to find, to get a sense for online is just much harder. But I don't think it's impossible. And there's always a risk, and so I don't think it has fundamentally changed, but I think it just got a little bit trickier to sense those things. And I definitely revised also my interviews, the structure of them and what I ask, and because we don't have that face-to-face directly.
Yeah. Neeli, you would like to add something here?
Well, it is, basically the same thing what Martin is saying, change the questions, trying to feel more personal, getting into more personal questions than saying, what is your degree? Where did you get it from? Stuff like that. But also the other thing is, we did a lot of work with companies, so software development companies. So our team was already from outside. So it was a bit easier for us to keep it that way.
I'm actually taking a slight deviation from our regular question flow, which I planned, because they're very interesting audience question here. So the audience question, the first one is, if you have to name just one of the hardest and one of the best part of working remote, any of you, just grab the mic. Yeah.
If I could, hardest, actually,
but quick. Yeah, 1 minute.
Hardest was, I miss my flights. I love to fly around the globe and see the world. That was my hardest. Seeing my husband and daughter 24/7 was not fun anymore after a certain time. So that was the hardest part. The easy part was, again, that was easy part. And it was, like my Sunday was a Thursday. So that was the new Sunday. I made it the middle of the week as my Sunday, and I turned everything off, and that was my family time. So more family time and more good work, I would say. That was the best and the worst part.
And the next question, and Martin, you can answer both together if you pick up this one.
Yeah.
So since you actually did the hiring this time, so did you find any difference in culture, age, or gender in people working remote this time? Like while hiring, maybe you are focusing on these areas earlier, but not anymore, or you have been focusing more on these? So it's not just the location, but culture, age, and gender.
Culture, no, I wouldn't say. I think we have like a good understanding the type of culture that we want to hire for, that we want to attract to work at a startup like ours. So I don't think that has fundamentally shifted. And age, sex, religion, so almost never consideration. So that's, we completely inclusive if it comes to that, and I don't think remote has changed that at all. If so, it maybe has removed more of a bias, implicit bias. The other question, I think the hardest part working remotely for me, I think, was to establish like these little routines, right? If you have team meetings, to read people, to read a room, when you have like 10 people on a call and like everybody just like just a thumb up and it's complete quiet, to have like, to replace those little signals in a room, reader group, I think that I had to like develop new kind of instincts for. And then I think the best part, what I hear across the board and also for me, is obviously that people feel they have a better life, work balance right now. Commute is gone. They feel they see their family more, their kids. Like, could also been challenging for a lot of folks with kids at home, right? So that's not easy, but generally I think a lot of people like that new freedom.
And just to add on there, like sometimes like working on remote meetings, like who should speak first or should we raise hands, all those minor dynamics on one side. But one common and very powerful narrative which I see in both of your communication is like you guys took it like a step back, like whether it's a conservative hiring, as you simplistically put, Martin, or the product innovation, Neeli, which you put, like bringing cybersecurity part, the old age care part. So in a way that your businesses have survived, or kind of have their resilience has been tested in a way. And in Martin's reply, I also find a sense of like shift on the priorities. Like, okay, this earlier we were looking for this, our job was like to scale up the teams in this way, but now the priority is there. So as a CTO, I think it's very important, like communication and priorities, or communication of the priorities. So where do you see you guys like using the communication tools effectively? How you have been communicating priorities and stakeholder engagement, team management in the situations we have been in? Neeli, maybe you.
Okay. Priorities, I think we talked when we were discussing also, bringing in some of those things for the empathy part. Mm-hmm. If I can say, the crisis of, will they be thrown out of the company, and how will things happen if I'm going in the right direction with my answer? Those, as I mentioned, I became like a kind of a mother hen. I was asked questions or answering or listening to things which was not really related to the company anymore at one point. And then you have to learn also how to adapt that, and also make time for that during meetings, or make time before or after meetings, like, okay, why the product work stopped or delayed in thing. And then of course meetings which we had to make sure, online meetings, not weekly, but it became almost like every second day or something.
Yeah,
whenever needed, because you're available. Yeah.
And Martin, I'm just kind of like tightening this question a bit abstract so that you can answer the way you want. So I will say that like earlier you were communicating that, hey guys, we are doing X. And now you are saying that, hey, we are doing Y and not X. So maybe you can take any example and just tell us how you have shifted the priority, yes, as you mentioned, and how you have communicated that. Because the next thing I'm coming is like a CTO as a kind of a knowledge figure, as a mentor figure to the company. Yeah. So.
Okay, good question. I think part of it is, as you said, like communicating like the why. Why are we doing that, right? You need to get everybody on board and say, because you used to work maybe a different way before, and like always when you change or fundamentally change like the path, how you innovate, how you decide what to do as a product company, like we can do basically everything. So we need to decide what we do. And I think my job as a CTO is or one of like strong things that I can do is have that like scientific head and be data driven, right? And say, hey, let's remove the opinions maybe of the room and say, hey, let's look really at the data. Let's crunch the numbers and see what has worked in the past, right? And what has not worked, and what are the things that we should, reinforce, double down on, and what are things that we might want to, let go of to lose ballast, like to be freed from those things. And I think data is a very powerful tool there. I'm happy that I have like the buy-in also from like the rest of the leadership, CEO and so on, that they understand like that data always wins over opinion. And so I think if you then talk with your engineering team and say, hey, this is what we need to provide to like help the business to move in the right direction, like they take that as a challenge, and I get very excited about that, like to crunch the numbers and to like help me to provide also those numbers for the larger business, our leadership and the board, right?
And maybe like we are towards the end of this discussion. One thing I would like to know from both of you is, so have you guys invested yourself in some kind of a training or some kind of a re-education for yourself, or maybe you have kind of like guided your team members to do something which you had not told them before, like, hey, learn this now. This is an important skill now. First, you're yourself or about your team members? Yeah.
Well, as myself, if I may start, if you see, I'm also a professor, so I keep on continuing studying. It never stops for me. I think for Martin would be the same. We never stop. We keep on re-educating ourselves what the market is, wanting, especially for startups. But also, collaboration with university helps give the team members, okay, we are kind of stuck just now. So why not use this moment to go for new skills or do education? And just to give you some examples, is some of the software guys we have in the team, they are bachelors. So we support them to get their master's degree through my university or a PhD degree. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of getting them into the market again. Maybe they will leave the company, or they will stay with us, who knows, but help them to get the future so that they stay a bit calm and cope with the current situation.
Yeah. Martin, you have something to add? Otherwise, I have the last question coming. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you're totally right. I set growth goals for my engineers, and something I always do, but definitely has been now aligned with like the reshifted priorities and what we're trying to do. So things like cloud technologies, like standard building blocks and so on, have become more of a priority for them, like to grow and to catch up on those technologies for sure. And then as a leadership team, we actually do get coached by a company called Table Group for organizational health. Mm-hmm. So we try to also grow together. Like in a crisis, like you have to move together more, right? In order to get the best outcome out of it. And so we took that I think by heart, and also said, okay, let's really move closer together as a leadership team, especially because we're all like in different places in the world. So that was really important for us as well, to have a focus there, to grow as a leadership team and to become one unit.
And if we have to, if we were to go back to the old normal, as they say, so what you have picked up during this time, which you would continue in the old normal?
Old.
This is the last one. Yeah. So
Should I let Martin first reply or?
yeah, please.
I've picked up. I think the reinforced clarity, the focus, I think is you cannot do that enough. And I think this got accelerated and our hand got forced by the whole situation, the crisis, to really emphasize that. It's definitely a learning I would take back to the before times.
Yeah.
Say, hey, how important that is really as a business, and how powerful it also can be as a business, like to align behind like a few unified goals, and not trying to do like everything at the same time. And so that's probably like, the biggest lesson for me.
Yeah. And Neeli, I think you have explored the new dimensions of your product. And
Yes.
but
So
we have a very short time. You have to give an
yeah,
answer in like
very
1 minute.
quick. I
Yeah.
actually wrote it down when I saw your questions. So human side, empathy, but
Yes.
then it's also for the companies, people in the company, and the product in the market. So it's basically the word empathy and collaboration between startups, not just humans or robots, but with startups working together.
Startups and startups.
Yes. And then I combine it all together with my expertise and I say AI and human working together.
Wow. That's something. Yeah. So I'm pretty sure you have literally expanded your product offering, product portfolio.
Yes, I'm
in a
driving my
way.
CEO crazy with that.
And Martin has been kind of like hiring in a more focused way, but
Yeah.
like with more openness than before, which I can see. And there's a common answer which I get, that there's a more whoever is hiring, there's a more openness in hiring. So it's the implicit biases have been kind of lowered or taken out. It's a good thing. And as a society, we have come together and kind of seen like what is really impactful to be done, not just in my company and maybe collaborating with another company, but overall us together. I think it has been wonderful talking with you guys, and I think I will end this session right now. But yes, in the new normal or old normal, we will physically meet once again,
Yes, definitely.
definitely. And
Absolutely, yeah.
yeah, and then we'll remember this moment. Thanks a lot,
Okay.
guys. It has been pleasure being with you.
Same here.
Yes,
Thank you,
Pleasure
Amandeep.
likewise. Thank you,
Bye.
Neeli. Thank you,
thanks,
Amandeep.
Thank you,
thanks.
Martin.
Bye, bye.
Bye bye.
Bye.